Hey there viewers, did you know that the Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia attracts the most foot traffic anywhere in the world? That's right, tens of millions of people visit the Muslim holy site every single year. That's a lot of people, yet interestingly enough, planes are forbidden from flying over the Kaaba. Why's that? Today we're telling you why planes never fly over Kaaba in Saudi Arabia. Plus a few other no-fly zones, and what compelled governments to declare their airspace off-limits for commercial flights. Let's get started. Kaaba. At the center of Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, stands the single most sacred site in Islam, the Holy Kaaba. Tens of millions of people visit the holy site every year during sacred Islamic months to offer pilgrimage. Quite understandably, hotels in the city of Mecca are booked to maximum capacity every year, which makes it interesting to know that planes are not allowed over the Kaaba. There isn't a single reason to the fact, there are multiple. Firstly, Mecca is at a distance of approximately 90 kilometers from Jeddah. Jeddah is the second largest city in Saudi Arabia and the largest city in the Makkah province. The airport, King Abdul Aziz International Airport, is regarded as one of the world's largest and busiest airports. According to some reports, the airport serves over 20 million people every year. With King Abdul Aziz International Airport situated less than 90 miles from Mecca, it wouldn't make sense to construct a second airport in the holy city, especially considering the fact that the Saudi government constructed the airport in Jeddah specifically to support traffic coming into Mecca. Think about it. If an airport were to be constructed in Mecca, it would become the principal airport of the country considering how most tourists coming to Saudi Arabia come for pilgrimage. Not only would the government have to clear off a large portion of land to support the airport, but they would have to effectively shift focus from Jeddah's airport to Mecca. Why spend all the money when there's an airport not more than 3 hours away? Next comes an interesting phenomena that has yet to be explained. Planes flying over Kaaba would often find that their navigation systems began acting wild when the airplane would fly over the holy site. The phenomena is unexplained, but theories suggest that it might have something to do with the magnetic field projecting over the site. While arguably not the world's strongest magnetic field, airlines are very particular when it comes to disturbances in their navigation systems. As a consequence, planes are forbidden from flying over where their navigation systems go crazy, such as the South Pole. Theories have suggested that the Kaaba is strategically placed at the center of the world. That's right, not an inch to the left. This means that the magnetic field over the Kaaba creates a vacuum in the atmosphere. This vacuum essentially sucks in anything flying over the holy site. While there is some evidence to suggest that planes are unable to maintain their usual flying altitude over the holy site, this theory is also still up for debate. The most arguable fact is that security helicopters are always looming over the Kaaba and most officials enter the city via helicopter. Plus, birds are able to fly comfortably over it, some even land on the Kaaba. Lastly, and perhaps the strongest reason why planes are forbidden from flying over the Muslim holy city of Mecca is that the Saudi government has mentioned for the airspace above the Kaaba to be declared as a no-fly zone. This decision had both religious and practical connotations attached. Religiously, non-Muslims aren't allowed to enter Mecca. A commercial flight carrying passengers from all across the world would obviously go against the rule. Practically, the Kaaba has one of the world's most massive influx of tourists. When a large number of people are gathered over an area, their airspace is usually protected to avoid disturbances caused by air vibrations, noise pollution, and any other disturbance. For example, the United States declares the airspace above the Super Bowl as a no-fly zone every year, and in 2003, Disney Corporation argued the same fact in Congress to declare the airspace above Disneyland and Disney World as no-fly zones. Machu Picchu. The 15th century citadel and the last known standing relic for the Inca Empire, the Machu Picchu is one of the world's most important historic landmarks. UNESCO regards the historical site as one of the world's most prestigious heritage sites and a Peruvian historical sanctuary. Machu Picchu is also financially beneficial for the Peruvian government. The site attracts over 1 million tourists every year, making it Peru's most popular tourist site and largest tourism-based revenue generator. In 2006, the Peruvian government motioned to declare the airspace above the historic site as a no-fly zone. Why? Soon after UNESCO declared Machu Picchu as one of the world's most significant historic sites, it also added the heritage site onto its list of heritage sites in danger, This was principally because several commercial business, hotel chains, restaurants, and tourism companies began constructing buildings in the heritage site's vicinity. The Peruvian government allowed most of the expansion to take place, but quickly rescinded their permits after mass protests were carried out by Peruvian people to maintain and respect the site's untampered cultural significance. There is another important reason why airplanes usually steer clear of Machu Picchu. There isn't an airport for miles around the heritage site, and in case an airplane were to make an emergency landing, it would invariably damage the cultural site. Even if planes steer away from the site and crash land in the forests nearby, the inevitable explosion that would follow would disrupt natural habitats that have been living in those forests for centuries at this point. Paris. You might be a little surprised to find Paris on our list of no-fly zones. Well, Paris has a complicated relationship with airplanes. Arguably one of the world's most prominent tourist destinations, the city of Paris does not have an airport within the city itself. There are, however, 4 airports in city limits. You might have seen planes flying over Paris, but there's a strict rule that has to be followed. Commercial airplanes are not allowed to fly below 6,500 feet. Helicopters are banned almost entirely unless they're given special permits by the government to carry out surveillance or medical services. The South Pole. Commercial airlines are authorized to fly over the North Pole but are banned from flying over the South Pole. Why the disparity? Does Santa have anything to do with it? Santa probably has less to do with it than Earth's strong magnetic field over the South Pole. Planes flying over Antarctica find that their navigation systems go wild over the continent. If you know anything about planes, you'd know that a crazy navigation system equals a death sentence. But that's not the only reason why planes don't fly over the South Pole. Let's go over it with an example. Say you are flying from Buenos Aires in Argentina to Perth in Australia. The shortest and most obvious path from point A to point B would be to go over the South Pole. However, planes instead take a long detour around the South Pole, and there are a few reasons why. Firstly, passengers would have to layer up when they fly over Antarctica because of its freezing temperatures. The snowy climate would mean that the cockpit would get fogged after every few seconds, and the pilots would have to navigate the plane a lot more slowly over the South Pole. With their navigation systems working improperly, it might necessitate a layover in the coldest place on Earth. However, planes cannot land in Antarctica. Why? Because the continent has no working airports, no landing areas, and nowhere to refuel. If your plane lands in the South Pole, you're lost. This isn't to say that planes never fly to the South Pole. Smaller planes carrying 1 or 2 passengers routinely go there to transport researchers and scientists to the area. However, these planes are highly specific to meet the climactic conditions of the area. Area 51. People all over the internet were convinced that the United States government was harboring alien life forms in one of the most well-guarded military locations, Area 51. In 2019, there were plans to storm the military base to uncover the secrets the U.S. government had been keeping. Their plans were futile because not only is Area 51 the U.S. military's best-guarded secret, but also because the airspace above the military camp has been declared as a no-fly zone by the U.S. government. This isn't to say that all flights flying over Area 51 are banned. However, planes flying over the military camp have to be given clearance by the U.S. military and must take off from Las Vegas's McCarran International Airport. The planes themselves must use the call sign Janet to get clearance to enter the airspace. You would also have to be a high-ranking official in either the U.S. military or the U.S. government to be allowed over and into Area 51, probably to see the alien life forms everyone keeps raving about. Alright, that's all for today's video on why planes never fly over the Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Out of all the reasons, why do you think planes aren't allowed over the Muslim holy site? Do let us know in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to INFORAMA for more fun and informative content. We'll see you soon.